Good morning, everybody, and thank you for coming to ADM202, Generative AI and Advertising and Marketing with Blueshift and VidMob. I hope, like me, you're in the right place, you're excited to be here, and thank you for making the decision to come out to Mandalay Bay, skipping the keynote to come to advertising and marketing and learning all about generative AI. Good decision. I'm Craig Miller, Global Solution Portfolio Lead for Advertising and Marketing at AWS, and I'm extremely excited and pleased to be joined by my colleague Steph Laser, Global Head of Publisher Ad Tech, by Manya Malela, Co-founder and Chief AI Officer from Blueshift, and by Mickey Alone, Chief Technology Officer and Chief Product Officer at VidMob. And sorry, Mickey, for inverting your title. Thank you for coming, everybody. We've got a great agenda for you today. We're going to be talking about trends in advertising and marketing with generative AI. We'll be looking at some of the use cases where our customers, like you, are applying generative AI technology successfully for advertising and marketing related use cases. We'll be looking at the differentiators and services that we have here at AWS to support you in your generative AI endeavors. And then we'll be hearing from our customers, Blueshift, and looking at how they're enabling marketers with generative AI technologies for age-old advertising and marketing use cases and driving outcomes with their platform. We'll be hearing from VidMob about their creative data technology and how that's enabling advertisers to be successful with generative AI here on AWS. And then we'll wrap it up. So great agenda, really looking forward to it. In terms of overall trends for generative AI, we're at an inflection point where last year we saw lots of excitement in 2023 for what generative AI, the promise of generative AI would do for our advertising and marketing related use cases. Many of you came here to reInvent last year and heard about some of the exciting developments like our Titan models that were announced here at reInvent last year. And I've heard about proof of concepts over the course of 2023 and the type of work that we were looking to do with generative AI. That innovation and transformation was super early. We were seeing lots of momentum and movement, changes in the types of models, changes in the leadership, in the horse race around those models, and what they could enable for meaningful use cases in our space. Early days, lots of proof of concept, lots of manual intervention, and nothing that was really quite production to the scale that mattered. Here in 2024, we're starting to see that shift to where now the innovation that's occurred is actually moving to production and starting to create meaningful results. We're excited to hear that story today from Blueshift and VidMob, and they're going to impart their learnings of how they've put together some of their capabilities using AWS-related technologies to empower the advertisers and marketers that leverage and utilize their platforms. We're seeing important trends in using data in conjunction with those foundational models to enable differentiated results that create impacts for advertisers. And we're seeing lots of that around the theme of personalization, around the themes of business process efficiency. And the stories that you're going to hear today from Blueshift and VidMob are going to give you, I hope, recipes that you can take home and try on your own, because each and every one of you, if you're here today, I'm confident you care about advertising and marketing related use cases, either as a user of these platforms or as a builder of these platforms. And you're going to gain insight today in how you can create meaningful impacts leveraging these new technologies. We're seeing trends across every one of our customers in this space where they want to ultimately become more efficient, run business processes around advertising and marketing with efficiency. They want to engage consumers with excellent customer experiences and personalization to drive outcomes. And they want to be able to improve the operations and monetization around their publisher advertising monetization needs. And generative AI is being used across that entire spectrum of the advertising and marketing value chain, from the brands, the advertisers and the marketers, all the way through to the publishers in ways that facilitate age-old problems. AWS is helping with this innovation. We're helping in a variety of ways. We're helping drive the age-old mantra, you've all heard it, of reaching the right person with the right message at the right time. That's what we all want to achieve as advertisers and marketers. Unstated in that is that our goal is to drive meaningful outcomes, measurable outcomes, enabled by data. And we're using technologies. In order to do that, we have to be able to use technologies to enable predictive analytics, to be able to project how a consumer will react, to be able to determine what the right message to give them is when to trigger that outcome. And so, AWS is helping. We're helping in driving those outcomes efficiently, in being able to work over the scale of data that enables those personalized outcomes and decisions, that importantly allow you to create creatives that are meaningfully personalized to the individual about where they are in the journey in order to make an outcome occur. We're doing that in a variety of ways. Many of you may have caught yesterday the announcement of the Amazon Nova family of models following on to last year's announcement about our Titan models. Nova being utilized for creative generation at Amazon advertising is actually enabling 5x the advertising campaigns to be run by sellers on the Amazon marketplace who use the creative suite of tools. And they're creating double outcomes for the purchases around those ads. That's a great story. It's not just creative generation models where Amazon is innovating and continuing to move the needle. We're also focusing on price performance. So the Nova models, for example, enable a 75% improvement in price performance over competitive models in the very same class. So if you're thinking about creative generation, or you're thinking about video or audio, the types of formats that matter within advertising and marketing, you can benefit from excellent price performance based on the democratization and innovation driven by Amazon and adopted by Amazon advertising. An amazing story for you. We're also focused on innovating at the chip level, at the silicon level, having efficient price performance through our Inferentia and Trainium family of chipsets, as well as Graviton for generalized compute. All necessary requirements to be able to manage the class of personalization, creative generation, and intelligence at the scale that matters to us in advertising and marketing, in working over the consumer engagement data, and be able to make decisions about what to do next to give the right person the right message at the right time to drive that outcome and understand that we've done it effectively. All of that allows you to operate efficiently around use cases that matter to advertising and marketing. And so let's talk about what we're seeing, whether you're a marketer looking to do direct engagement and customer experience, or whether you're an advertising platform or publisher looking to monetize around an advertising value chain. We're seeing a couple of use cases where we're seeing innovation by our customers that are creating meaningful impact and value. Remember, we have to operate efficiently. We have to be able to create those personalized messages, and we want to be able to do so at scale with excellence. And so, age-old problems that have existed in advertising and marketing, where the promise of being able to reach the right consumer with the right message at the right time efficiently is actually not been fully realized until today, where we're seeing important innovation in these use case areas. So creative generation, creative analysis, creative optimization, being able to really analyze understand, characterize the composition of creatives in order to be able to optimize and generate further variations, translations, localizations, regionalizations of creative to personalize on top of the data that's at our disposal is one of the areas we're seeing true innovation. Blueshift and VidMob are going to be talking about some of these very areas. Amazon advertising is engaged very deeply with our creative studio around these, and they've helped pioneer some of our Amazon Nova models that are now, as of yesterday, generally announced and at your disposal. We're also seeing marketers and brands really look to improve their customer experience through personalization throughout every consumer touch point and channel that they engage with those consumers. Whether that's search and personalized search results, whether that's outbound campaigns and predicting next best actions, whether it's pairing creatives to go along with those actions and offers that they represent to drive consumer engagement, or managing inbound customer experience through contact channels, for example, and then leveraging that data to be able to further segment, target, and determine how to engage the consumer. Generative AI is being applied. We're also seeing it leveraged very deeply for audience analysis, for understanding segmentation of the consumer, and then being able to target them with additional campaigns very deeply. Creative analysis is also, and characterization of incoming creative, for example, for screening of incoming campaigns, is one of the real areas we're seeing business process efficiencies being improved. Those same techniques for analyzing creatives can be applied to content. And we're seeing publishers leverage generative AI technologies to enable contextual advertising at scale, to improve brand safety, and to be able to leverage understanding of consumer interaction and engagement with that content to enable further segmentation of those users. Or, in many cases, enable advanced formats like shoppability and virtual product placement. All of those, while they may have existed prior to generative AI, are being enhanced due to the flexibility and the capability to understand and summarize content, to be able to extract meta information flexibly to enable our downstream advertising and marketing use cases. These are all exciting developments that run to the efficiency of generative AI in our space. Now, cross-cutting all of that is the overarching need to run business processes efficiently through automation. And we're seeing important strides in generative AI in being applied to automated media planning, to creative screening and audit, to billing and reconciliation, and even to the types of intelligence and analytics that put natural language querying in the hands of our end users, internally or externally, to democratize the insights that can be derived from the advertising and marketing campaigns and consumer engagements that we have. So while we've seen significant progress from 2023 to 2024 in enabling generative AI at scale in production to drive these outcomes, we're not at the end. I think we're going to continue to see deep innovation in this space enabled by increasing innovation, increasing price performance characteristics that really drive the efficient utilization of generative AI throughout the advertising and marketing stack. And while today we may be seeing many of those use cases enabled through personalization, or at the margins of the core of how we run our advertising and marketing related businesses, I know that in the next several years, we're going to continue to see that innovation further and go deeper into our stacks as the price performance continues to come down as the capabilities of the models themselves allow greater utilization, and as performance continues to improve overall in these models. So we've made great strides. You can see that in the announcement of Amazon Nova. Today, you're going to learn about how Blueshift and VidMob utilize these technologies to enable their products. I'm excited to be up here and hear next year how you all have adopted generative AI technologies for these use cases and more, and are improving the outcomes for advertisers and marketers themselves. So with that, thank you for having me. I want to welcome Stephanie Laser, my colleague, up to the stage. Stephanie, thank you.
Thank you. All right. So first, we're going to talk a little bit about what sets AWS apart. Number one, it's our purpose-built infrastructure. So we have made investments in the infrastructure of generative AI, meaning that we have cost-effective Trainium chips. These are for high-performance training. We also have low-latency inferential chips. This helps with real-time inference. And something that you love from AWS, elastic scaling that matches generative AI demands. This is all optimized for performance, cost, and scalability of generative AI workloads. We also have a broad range of services and model choice. So there is a very diverse set of generative AI services that are built specifically for advertising and marketing. This is integrated with the broadest set of generative AI models on Amazon Bedrock for creative optimization, personalization, content moderation, and audience analysis. We also have dedicated generative AI partners for advertising and marketing. These validated partner solutions help you get to market faster with pre-built, tested generative AI models tailored for advertising and marketing technology. There are also implementation packages from experienced partners that ensure proper deployment and effective utilization of generative AI for your business needs. We also have purpose-built models and solutions for high-performing things like ad copy, content, images, and more optimized for your brand and audience. And lastly, there's the security, privacy, and liability protection tools that you know and love from AWS. These robust security controls allow you to run your generative AI workloads where your data lives and keep it private and completely under your control. We also have automated abuse detection capabilities that enable responsible, auditable, and compliant generative AI deployments. And we have industry-leading and comprehensive intellectual property controls. These are going to protect you from copyright claims on output of generative AI services, and also safeguard you from infringement claims from using AWS generative AI and their training data. So Amazon Bedrock is a fully managed service that helps you to build and scale your generative AI applications with access to the latest model innovations. Tens of thousands of customers have used Amazon Bedrock as a foundation for their generative AI apps because it gives them access to the broadest selection of first and third-party LLMs and FMs. One of our most popular models to date is Anthropic's state-of-the-art Claude models. We very recently announced that Anthropic's Claude 3.5 Sonnet model is supported, and this sets a new industry standard for intelligence. Now, one of the great things about Amazon Bedrock is that because it supports model choice, we found that the majority of our customers are using more than one model, so they can match the model exactly to the application that it works best with. However, certain companies, they also need to build and train their own models for specific use cases. Perhaps you're already experimenting and building with your LLMs and FMs, which are the building blocks of every generative AI application. So we've worked with a lot of customers here at AWS, and it's safe to say that everybody acknowledges the power of generative AI, and they're working to build like a Gen AI vision for their company what we find is that nearly everyone focuses on the foundational models, and they focus on the LLMs. But this is just the tip of the proverbial iceberg. There's more to this than meets the eye. What enables you to derive the most out of generative AI is your data. Generative AI applications are still applications, so you need operational databases that support those for user experience and all interaction steps outside of invoking the LLM itself. This is analytics and data lakes that are key to accumulating your domain-specific data. There's data integrations where you source your data. And then there's also governance and compliance needs for all your data foundation. It's incredibly important for you to have that data foundation with the most comprehensive set of services for it. Across all these areas, AWS provides you with the right tool for the right job so that you don't have to compromise on performance, costs, or results. And we've carried this philosophy of no one-size-fits-all for your generative AI needs, including tools that you use for storing, retrieving, indexing, and searching vector embeddings. When you want to build generative AI applications for your business needs, your organization's data is your differentiator. When you think about it, every single company has access to the same LLMs and foundational models. But the companies that use their data for generative AI applications have real business value using their data. The difference is your data between a generic generative AI application and those who know your business and know your customers deeply. So we're seeing very creative use cases of merging data, your own data, including intelligent conversational chatbots, generating programming code from text, and summarizing long-form narratives such as books and transcripts. Thank you guys so much. And now to talk a little bit more about building generative AI applications, come on up, Manyam.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Craig, for the introduction. Today, I want to share with you one of the real-world use cases of putting Gen AI to actual work. So, by introductions, I'm Manya Malela, co-founder at Blueshift, and we provide a customer data platform for AI marketing. And what that means is that organizations and brands are increasingly realizing the value of their own data, what in the industry parlance we call first-party data, and bringing that to improve customer experience, personalization, and meaningfully improve their engagement metrics. So you can find us online, and on the reviews are available for all of you to understand what we do and what we offer. Unpacking a little bit, what Blueshift does is bring together three key foundational layers for customer data on the platform that bundles together a unified data index with AI engine. And we have been at it for about 10 plus years, building this foundation now for orchestrating all your customer experiences on any channel. Typically, users and brands use us for their email communications, their SMS communications, their site, customer chat, customer support, and any customer experience where the first-party data informs what the experience can be. And we do that by combining predictive with generative. This is our key secret sauce of thinking of generative AI in the context of a long history of data science and machine learning in the marketing practice. If you are an organization that are dealing with tens of millions of customers, you have lots of data in your indexes, bringing that together with predictions that are on those customer profiles that are in real time and affect what communications are sent to those customers, what experience was shown to them on their sites and apps. Now you put generative AI into the mix, you now have a much faster cycle of being able to create personalized content. But you do have to combine that with the foundation of predictive models that you've already probably built, or you can use a solution like ours and have that flywheel be combined with content creation with contextual personalization for the user. Towards that, Blueshift provides 4 key pillars of AI marketing. The first is around audiences, where you want to understand what the users who come to your site or app are likely to do. What would they do next? How can you, as a marketing organization, react to that in a quick, agile, real-time manner? We provide content and multimedia recommendations that allow customer journeys to progress from being that first visitor to transacting for the first time, to be able to become a sustaining lifelong customer. We combine that with channel and timing optimization, so the next best actions and the next best channel, those are built into the platform. And now with generative content, you can personalize further the tone, the visual, the copy that goes out for every customer. If you're on the site or the app, you can imagine a layout that is specific to each user based on the journey that they're in. And we're going to talk a little bit about what is generative AI actually doing for real-world marketing. And I want to start off with a use case that a couple of our customers brought to us about 18 months ago, where while content recommendations, recommender engines have been around for a very long time, the semantic understanding of that content was still limited. Oftentimes, when we think of recommendations, I mean, we're all familiar with now, on any e-commerce site, starting with Amazon, where you see an item, you see similar items. People who view this thing also view this other thing. But over time, what brands and organizations have realized is that they want to combine that with appropriate content along with items that they recommend. And we're going to see what that means in the marketing context. And towards that, the very first thing is that you may have done an image generation yourself or written a blog with generative AI. I mean, maybe with a show of hands, I would like to see how many of you have edited a blog with generative AI or created an image with generative AI. I'm seeing a smattering of hands. And you would have quickly realized how easy and how much more efficient and how much more cheaper it has become to create those compelling visuals, to create that compelling content. And I think by a study by Zapier put it at 200x lower for every image creation now done with generative AI compared to the previous models or previous methods. And maybe with models announced by Amazon yesterday with Supernovas and Nova Real and Nova, the 4 different tiers, we could see much further gains in the cost equation. So the question becomes to all of us and to marketing organizations, what do I do with all this content? I can actually create lots of good content. But is that the end of it? How do I go from creating content, but also thinking about how does that connect to my customers and my users? And in this kind of sea of endless content, this one is an image that I created with Stability Ultra using AWS Bedrock model. And you can see content creation has certainly become a lot more compelling. But putting it in the context of where the customer is with your brand, what they have done recently with you, what they have not done recently with you, how do you understand their long-term interests, and putting it all together is the next key important piece in this era of abundance of content. So we like to see it as almost when you are trying to paint a picture of someone, you start with broad strokes of what a customer is. So if you're an organization managing customer data, you have this initial problem where you have a visitor to the site or to the app, and you know very little about them. As you interact with them, as you communicate with them, you are getting a more and more clearer picture. And that clearer picture is created by you and your understanding of data, but also with AI surfacing insights about what the customers are likely to see and what the customers would want to see and what they are interested in your brand and organization. So this is this combination of understanding that is aided by predictive intelligence and your own domain knowledge, your own understanding of what your customer persona is, psychology is, and putting that together is like that painting of a picture where over time you go from broad strokes to a much clearer picture of what the other person that you're talking to is. And that connection comes with continuous engagement and contextual personalization. And today, I want to share a couple of more details about how LLM recommendations are a key part of that. So you have seen one-to-one recommendations as practiced by many organizations are key to that contextual personalization. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. As I was referring to before, earlier recommender engines were seen as clearly around item-to-item recommendations. So you may be viewing a athletic wear or a sports gear, and you're kind of like, hey, you're looking at this item, let me show you more. It's based on session history on the site. It may be based on a couple of other user interactions, and you're combining that user interactions to do that item-to-item recommendations. But increasingly with generative AI-aided content, you also have access to other content. That is, why is that item even important to that person? What does it mean to have a purchase cycle where that fits into my lifestyle, my customer journey, and so forth? And 18 months ago, I was referring to as when we were talking to AWS, we brought a problem to them. And the problem was, on the surface, simple, which is one of our customers has items to sell, but they also have a lot of educational content. They have videos, they have podcasts, they have articles about those items. And how do you meaningfully put together all 4 or 5 different multimodal varieties of content into an email newsletter? Earlier, you would say, user was looking at this particular item. Let's just look at, hey, here are the recent articles my editorial team just pushed onto my site. Let's club that in. Or here are the 3 popular videos that I have, so let's push that in. But with LLMs, you actually now have a chance to do a much deeper understanding of what those videos are, what those images are, what those texts are, and connect that to your content and item catalogs. So we work with AWS, and together we have put together a solution using Titan embeddings. If you have not used them, a great way to combine multimodal embeddings into your recommender engine problem. And you can read the full blog on the AWS site. So please do scan that QR code, and we have comparative results on how that compares to some of the other providers, as well as how that actually transform into use cases for personalization. And as a reference architecture, you can take this and suit it to your needs. We have used Amazon EMR clusters along with ECS clusters for a lot of ingestion data. But we run a lot of our LLM-based pipelines using Glue. It's a great service, completely managed, without any necessary upfront infrastructure provisioning. So you can actually run Glue dynamically with the pipelines. As incoming data comes in, the Glue jobs can scale appropriately, and those refresh appropriate embeddings that we fetch from Amazon Bedrock service and update our recommender engine with content that is then personalized and sent back to the user. Here is the outcome of all that effort. When we launched this with one of the leading music retailers in North America by a company called Sweetwater. You may have heard of them. If you're an aspiring musician or an established musician, they're very well known in that particular community. They sell music gear, but not only do they just sell gear, they educate you on why that amplifier, why that guitar, what are the different options you have, how do you actually tune something like that, what software is appropriate for you. Maybe listen to a podcast about someone who actually used it. Maybe look at the video that one of their YouTube influencers has posted about actually using those instruments. It's a very purpose-driven community that actually cares about the journey of someone who is aspiring to start their musical journey to becoming someone who is some we might see on TVs and Grammy Awards. And that's the extent of content that they have, and they're able to connect the buying journey with the education journey. And when we saw that, when we incorporated LLM recommendations into their newsletters, we saw 50% lift in their click-through rates, and that was possible because we went from previous collaborative filtering models to LLM-based recommendations that use those multimodal embeddings. And some of the key learnings that we learned along the way doing this was embeddings can be indexed with multiple attributes over time so that you can actually have incremental updates. During runtime, you can fetch them with the appropriate indices. It's almost like having a super RAG, a RAG that is like in some ways you're generating and retrieving only specific units. But in this particular case, you can actually do a much larger vector index with key indices that allows you to get that contextual personalization in real time. And I want to kind of leave you with few key takeaways. The first is that content generation by itself is not sufficient. You can still be stuck with a lot of content, but not much meaningful connection with your customer. So you have to connect customers with contextually what's relevant to them. Like we saw with Sweetwater, if you're buying an amplifier, educating you about what that amplifier actually, does, what are the instruments that are related to it, through podcasts, through videos, through articles is equally important in that buying journey. And Amazon Bedrock is a foundation that we just heard from Craig and Stephanie that allows both model choice, but strictest data governance and guardrails without having to think about scalable problems along the way. And it gives you a set of primitives to build your own recommender engines, your own personalization systems. And I'll leave you with that. Thank you. I welcome Mickey.
Hi. All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Mickey Alon. I'm Chief Product and Technology Officer at VidMob. Today I'm going to walk you through our architecture, how we used RAG architecture and Bedrock to leverage our data. How many of you actually today using RAG, understand RAG, planning to use RAG? Oh, not many. So RAG is retrieval augmented generation, right? It helps you really leverage your data to drive value. So before we dive in and how you leverage your data as differentiation, I want to just introduce you to what VidMob does. VidMob is a creative data technology company. We help companies like Kenvue, big brands like Kenvue, J&J, Coca-Cola, to really learn about their audiences through the creative signals. They drive media decisions all day. We've heard about personalization. Usually it's the right message, the right person at the right time. We are focusing on that message, on that content, understanding, deciphering that content so we can truly understand their preferences and can react to that. We've analyzed more than 18 million videos, every frame, to better understand what it entails. We connect to the 11 major channels. These assets of these brands generate more than 3 trillion data points, which is the intersection between creative elements, we're going to explain what it is, and the performance data attached to it. We've built over 40 proprietary models to better understand creative, to better understand videos, better understand static images, and to extract the relevant data from that. So let's just define what creative data is. As you can see, what we do here, we ingest all these creative videos or assets for big brands. And we believe that every impression is an opportunity for learning, right? Because this is like, usually brands look at the creative as how they want to communicate, how do they build their identify, what do they want to drive as a metric. So what we do is we slice every frame and we understand what's going on there. We understand the objects, the text, the interaction, more advanced stuff like the emotion. Is that person actually touching the product? So all of these elements are things that we analyze as well, and then we correlate them to the metric, the media metrics, the view-through rate, the click-through rate. But that's what the marketers want to drive. So we do that correlation, and our models better and better understand what is going on with the creative, what actually was the most engaging part and why. And each video like that, a 30-second video, can generate 10,000 data points. And for us, this is the learning opportunity to really tell brands what audience actually really like. And why do they care about this data as brands? They care about this because we can see that the studies show the creative quality is responsible for more than 50% of the overall campaign success. The what, right? We are always saying that the right message, the right person, the right time. The what makes 50% of that engagement. This is why they really care about creative data and investing in that. The exciting part with generative AI now, that we can actually create a lot more content for them in a much faster and reduced cost. So we're moving and shifting towards creative abundance, right? And that is really, really exciting, though the trick is like to know what to build, what would actually be very engaging. And there's several challenges that now brands actually face. I would say that their brand identity and quality control is becoming critical for them, right? If I use Gen AI and it generates a lot of different assets, how do I maintain my brand identity? You guys are actually identifying those products, the Listerine bottle, the Coca-Cola can. You see that, you identify that very quickly, and if suddenly it looks strange, that becomes like an identity problem, and the quality control is as important. So understanding how all those that is being generated is something that is one of the challenges. And studies show that what we remember as consumers is around 15% of the data that these brands are sending to us every day. So memorability is becoming another challenge. And now the brand is really focusing on how do I get this brand consistency so you guys actually remember what I try to message to you. And brand consistency is all about how do you actually view my object, my messaging, and so forth. So those are the challenges that brands are facing now with the new Gen AI, and the marketers that will win will actually know what to build, right? To stand out, basically to cut through the noise and create this consistency. So I'm going to walk you through some reference architecture and show you what we've built to help brands actually build unique, engaging, and memorable creative, which is why we're here. So I call that our data distillery, creative data distillery. As we've heard again, your data is a differentiation, right? So I'm going to show you the architecture we've used partnering with Amazon, how to actually get to that insight. And it's a long journey. We process the videos, we understand the media metrics, we tie that together, we store that in a very large database, which is growing every day. We also dealt with the embeddings. We're going to show you how it was done, and then eventually applying the RAG architecture so we can actually leverage the data for LLMs and other models so their output is more accurate and more precise. So the first architecture on the top right is how we ingest data and creative from the 11 channels. What is happening is it's actually pretty auto-scaling mechanism. It ingests the videos, slice the frames, understand each frame by actually communicating with SageMaker. In SageMaker, we are hosting our proprietary models. It helps us understand the creative in more advanced way, the way marketers want to understand the creative. And SageMaker was a big shift for us. It was really allowing our data science to be part of our releases. In the past, to deploy, to train was taking a long time. And with SageMaker, we gave the data science the power to just deploy the services. That became part of our analytics and part of our solution. We still also use recognition and some other out-of-the-box elements, and we basically combine everything together into that picture, and as well as, again, pulling the media metrics to correlate and generate this distilled creative data that we're going to see how it actually takes action. And we're going to see two really exciting videos, how we actually translate it to outcome. The second one is the embedding. As this data is growing, it's really key for us to store that in a high performance database. We use Snowflake in this case to store all this correlation, and we use a vector database to help us distill and understand what type of insight we should be pulling as we were building our conversational UI. So the vector database was key, and using Amazon Bedrock allowed us to test out different models, actually connecting with multimodal as well, and allows us even to switch models and on the fly for our users without changing code, which is pretty powerful because customers actually might come with their own custom models and they want you to use their model with your data. So marketers actually prefer to have something as a prompt, a conversational UI, to basically be able to deal with growing amount of data, and they want to have insights very quickly. If you give them a lot of like slice and dice, it's just not going to be as fast as they need, and it becomes very complex. So we were building the brand copilot that allows them to basically ask creative questions and understand actually what works for them, either before they build the next campaign or understanding from historical campaigns. So what we've done here, this is our RAG pipeline that allows us to intercept the Copilot prompt, which I'm going to show you in the next slide, how actually it works live. And the RAG architecture has allowed us to really hit the different databases. It's more than one across different areas, and then also using the vector to understand what was the question about. Is this a specific question like here? What drives click-through rate in Meta versus TikTok? As they want to learn, it might be more comparison. Should I use this type of elements in my creative, and so forth? It actually goes to our service, and Bedrock helps us actually connect with multi-models, benchmark them, and then decide what's going to be the most relevant one for the response. A couple of challenges we've had with this architecture, and we learned is the vector database. Obviously, you need to when your question or your prompt requires multiple data sources and spans across them. You need to think about how do you actually architect the vectors and how many vectors you create, and all those filters we've heard. So it's not trivial. And what we've done is making sure that we classify the prompt and then use the relevant vector to address it. Using, again, like when you think about prompt for insights, very complex insights that it needs to go and analyze all the data, This means that the LLM is required to use a multi-step, and then it needs to understand the context. What is the brand about? What are they trying to achieve? And so basically just throwing a bunch of data on LLM will not give you that answer. You need to think about that multi-step approach and how you provide this context over time. And also, as you suddenly launch a conversational UI to your product, you want to make sure that you also launch like a feedback mechanism so your customers can say, hey, this is actually great insight, but this is actually not. Because one of the challenges is to see what was going on, which model actually did not perform, what was the issue in case the agent did not provide the right answer or went into hallucination. When you're thinking about building those co-pilots in your system, one of the things to think about, and I like to see this architecture, is like how do you control the predictability of the output? And the more you give control to the LLM, the less predictable outcome you might get, especially in a multi-step. So what we've done on the right side, you can see two architectures, and what we've done is like building this classifier first to know which type of route should I take, and we took away some of the control from the agent, so we have more predictable outcome, and we split that to steps, and then from that point on, we still interact with LLM, we pass the context, but we have like a more deterministic outcome. Ideally, in the future, we'll see more and more autonomous as we expose more services, but I think this is where the LLMs are still maturing to deal with that. So applied solutions, as I said, in the vector database, when someone asks a question, and you're going to see the demo in the next slide, should I use one element versus the other, it classifies the question. It understands what is your target audience and market. It needs to understand what the type of question it is to route to the right place. And so the vector is taking part of that. So a couple of vectors, one of them will be on the creative element and one will be on the audience element as well to better understand that. We broke the agent flow into multi-steps, and we actually use the same endpoint that the UI uses. And the reason is we want to trace back and see that if they gave us a really convincing insight, you can trace back and double check that that was not just the LLM trying to convince us it's great, it's actually backed by data. And again, we launched this user feedback API that users can easily just click and give us the feedback on good and bad and why it was bad so we can iterate and optimize our models. So in this case, you're going to see that in action. This is in production. It's a closed beta with a couple of brands that we have, and you can see how you can easily prompt for the questions about actually pet care. And you can see that it basically goes through these steps to generate those insights. It goes through those terabytes of data points based on what I'm trying to achieve and comes back with these recommendations, which you can actually slide through and decide what actually you're going to apply into your next creative or your media decisions. As you can see that the indoor settings and featuring owners with interacting with their pets is creating that lift as part of your creative. Remember that these insights and how that is important to create authentic moments with the pet to drive the click-through rate. Because in the next couple of examples, we're going to see how those insights are turning into action. All right, so that was the co-pilot that helps us really help our marketers go and understand and just like avoid complex analytics UIs. Now they can understand what works. They can generate insights. They leverage conversational UI. So that's a great thing. But the goal was to help brands create engaging, unique, memorable content, not just the insight, right? Insight is great, and now we have even more insights. What do we do with them? So the next one is actually pretty cool. What we've done is we decided to partner with Adobe. We built this plugin. As opposed to create our own editor, we basically build a VidMob plugin into the Adobe suite. So this can work in Photoshop, After Effects, Premiere Pro. And what we are doing is we are using this as a conduit to our creative data. The creative data are the elements, the insights. And what we can do here, using the Amazon Bedrock and RAG, is to inform the multimodal, the text to image to text the LLM models, what should they actually create? And you think about personalization, this can be really massive. Like to really generate any number of creatives very quickly based on your insights, based on your client preferences. So this was a multi-model approach we took, and we are launching it right now. So you're going to see for the first time, what are we planning to launch. We took the same insights we saw before with Copilot into this brand and see what happens. Before that, first prompt will be without creative data. The first prompt is the classic Titan model, and just asking it to generate a creative with a CTA for the pet care brand. So if you're just going to go to that project, and here I can go to my output, and I see that I need to generate an output, and now I'm not using the generative data. And you can see the results are pretty good, but the food on the table next to the person and no CTA is not exactly what I expected to see. Now, what you're going to see is us enabling the creative data, using RAG to inject that into the creative. And here, you can see a well-defined, structured ad based on those insights, based on those creative effectiveness metrics, the scoring, that says, like, these are the best practices. And the best part, it's actually multi-layered. They can still edit that. It's not just a binary that then they have to continue to prompt to fix. So you can see the messaging is based on our insights. These are the insights that we saw before. We see that authentic moment with the pet actually drives this click-through rate on TikTok. So it was funneling into Titan, and Titan just picked it up. And now I'm ready to go. And I can just do my last touch or tweaks, but this is really ready to go and be a hyperscale personalization solution for you. And we plan to, as we heard about Nova, to support that as well. Another thing I mentioned is the creative quality, right? So imagine it starts generating hundreds or thousands of assets. We also have a scoring mechanism right in the endpoint, right in the creative. This is After Effects in Adobe. If you don't know the tool, on the right side, this is After Effects, this is the editor. So you can actually upload the creative and just check that it meets the brand best practices, requirement, and consistency. So we believe that it actually drives a lot of efficiencies beyond just the performance. How cool is that? That we tend to deal with like massive data and technology, and sometimes you just see something very cool. It's very easy to understand. It's pretty cool to see the output, and I think it's going to be like really exciting to see how brands use hyper-personalization with these models. So initial results, it's a closed beta, but the results are pretty promising to see how quickly you can get into insights. It used to be a few hours for creative strategists to understand the brand and then go to like 4, 5, 6 different reports in analytics, slicing and dicing, and actually finding those insights. Now they do it through a prompt, and it's getting better and better. The other one is around efficiency. Every creative you generate tends to have like a lot of back and forth, a lot of communication, until it actually meets what the marketer actually wanted, and it actually hits the best practices. We're already seeing 25% improvement in that cycle. And the volume of creative we can generate, and with the nuances and variations, is growing beyond 10x. And I think that the sky is the limit. It's actually up to the brand to say what the granularity of data you want to provide, so we can generate all these different assets and deploy them quickly. So wrapping up, it was great to partner with, by the way, with Amazon. This is a fast-moving industry, and Amazon was great partners to help us connect everything together, try Bedrock very quickly, helped us like get SageMaker up and running. So operationally, we are ready to move fast and continue to innovate. When we think about revolutionizing creative effectiveness, I think the future is that the prompt is becoming the creative, right? Less and less. I would say you're going to see like slow-moving brands. It's going to be pretty interesting to see that. And then AI models, it's a journey. We're seeing that how they evolve all the time. And what I like about the RAG architecture and Bedrock is it allows you to keep up very quickly without massive code changes. So if the next model is out, it's just a switch, and we can leverage that. And we are committed to creating more and more creative quality controls for brands to be allowed to actually use Gen AI. Because again, some of the brands, I still fear from brand issues. They don't want to risk their brand with something just went out without any control. And I also invite you guys, as if you have any, if you're an ISV that wants to build a solution, we do expose Creative Data API, either for control or creating the assets. And it's pretty easy to use. It's a REST API. And if you have a solution, we will partner with you and potentially take it to market. Thanks, everyone.
All right, guys. I want to thank you all for coming. Thanks to all of our speakers for talking a little bit more about their generative AI applications. And just to kind of sum up and finish up what we were talking about today, there are multitudes of different ways to use generative AI to improve your business. But the most important part about staying away from making generic AI applications and making personalized applications is making sure that your modern data foundation is all set and that you're able to use that unique data in building your applications. Thanks, guys.